Hello, Greeno. How am I coming in? Do you hear me? Can you hear me? How do I come in? All right, then. So we will give it some minutes, wait for people to come, and get started. Just looking through what I'm going to chant today. I remember that last time I said that next time we should chant the Dana section of Bhavana Vandana. And I don't remember what page that is because I'm not used to this new one. So let me just check it out here. Where are we at? Page 98. I had somebody on Facebook message me, and he said, I've been looking through your YouTube, and you don't have any talks on silence." And he says, "A lot of monks, they don't have talks on silence, but I see there's." He mentioned, I don't know, Tara Brock and Gil Fronsdale and all these people. Like they have like 4 talks on silence, 6 talks on silence. So he said, "Why don't you have a talk on silence?" And I said, "Okay, I'll do a talk on silence." So I'm probably going to do a video on silence coming up soon. It's an interesting talk. It's an interesting topic. I asked him, what do you mean by silence? What kind? Deep meditative silence? Regular silence? And he's like, all of it. All right. So let's do Donna. Let's see. This is 2 pages. Has some wonderful poetic language. It is the sound of silence. Yes. Na samane na brahmane na kapandika vabinnake ladhana samvibhajati vajeti anang panang cha bhojanang tang ve avutika samoti ahunang purissa dhammang ekachang dadati ekachang pavechati tang ve padesavasiti ahu medhavino jana sabhikavacho puriso sabba butta nukampako amodamano pakareti detati bhasati yatta pi megho tanayitava this is one of the wonderful things you guys get to see when somebody's not used to reading a Pali. They get to have all tongue-tied funness. All right. Gajayitva pavasati talang ninnang chaporeti abhisandantova varina evameva idhekacho puggalo hoti tadiso dhammena samharitvana uttana dighatang dhanang tapeti anabhanena samma satte vabinnake vanibbake yatta pi kumbho sampuno yassa kasachi adhokato vamate uddakang nisesang na tatta parirakati tateva yachake disva hinang ukatta majjime daddahi dhanang nisesang kumbho via adhokato danang cha peya vajjan cha attacharyav cha ya ida samma nattata cha dhamesu tatta yattarahang ete ko sanga loke rattasayani vayayato annado balado hoti vattado hoti vannado yanado sukkado hoti dipado hoti chakudo socha sabbadado hoti yodadati upasayang amatang dado chasohoti yo dhammang anusasati. All right. So, English. Again, this is it's called dana, giving, generosity. Not with recluses or Brahmins, neither with the poor and needy does the base man share his food or give drink with sustenance. People say that the selfish man is like a drought, a rainless sky, one who shares his wealth with some, but does not gladly give to others, is only like a local shower. In such a way, the wise describe him. But one who rains down bountiful gifts, gladly giving here and there, out of compassion for all beings, and who always says, give, give. This type of person is like a giant cloud filled with rain, thundering and pouring down refreshing water everywhere, drenching the highlands and lowlands too, generous without distinction. With his wealth collected justly, won through his own efforts. He shares both food and drink with beings who are in need. Just as a pot filled with water, if overturned by anyone, pours out all of its water and does not hold any back. Even so, when you see those in need, whether low, middle, or high, then give like the overturned pot, holding nothing back. Generosity, kind words, doing a good turn for others, and treating all people alike. These bonds of sympathy are to the world what the linchpin is to the chariot wheel. Giving food, one gives strength. Giving clothes, one gives beauty. Giving transport, one gives delight. Giving lamps, one gives sight. Giving shelter, one gives all. But the one who instructs in the Dhamma, the excellent teaching of the Buddha, such a person gives ambrosia. So this is a wonderful, wonderful, paragraphs on dana. And what we see here, this is not like, you won't find this specific thing in the suttas. This specific whole thing is not directly in the suttas, but what they do is they take various paragraphs from various spots in the suttas and they throw them together. It's kind of like the Madhananusati, the death chanting that's in this book. It's the same thing. Like, you have the simile of the mountains, right? So like in that death chanting, you'll see the Buddha talk about the simile of the mountains, right? So even though this specific chanting is not something you see in the early texts, parts of this chanting is. You can see all of these different things from the suttas. It's very, there's a bit of a connection with metta in this, right? The Buddha is telling us, right? There's no distinctions to who you give. There's no distinctions to you help, who you are generous to, right? So it's like the high, low, and the midlands, right? The highlands, midlands, and lowlands too, right? That is like a full storm, a full, a full thunderstorm, rainstorm. Whereas somebody who's really stingy is like a drought, a rainless sky, right? So the Buddha encourages us to be generous of our time and our money and our efforts and all this with other people, like a thunderstorm, a full metta storm. Yeah. Yep. So this is a very important thing, right? That we practice. As the Buddha says in a sutta, he says, if you knew that as I do, the results of generosity, you wouldn't even go your last morsel of food without giving some to another person. So the Buddha is very, very big in many, many places on how important dana is. As a matter of fact, in the Buddha's gradual training, the very first training is dana, generosity. Why is this? Those of you, there's only a couple of us in here, so most of you are probably from the Discord, right? You've heard me say many times. What do I say many times? Now I just went blank because I was looking at the chat. That's a danger of talking and looking at the chat. It'll come back to me. This is in line with the seed simile. The more we water the seeds, the greater the yield we receive. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I do talk about laying down the... Oh, yes. Now, but thank you, Greeno, because that reminded me of what I was going to say. You've heard me say this before. Oh, and Generosity Ninja. I'm getting there. I'll get to Generosity Ninja. No, but the laying down the burden. I always say the beginning of the Buddhist path is letting go. The middle of the Buddhist path is letting go. The end of the Buddhist path is letting go. When I say that the beginning of the Buddhist path is letting go, that's generosity, right? What is generosity? You're practicing giving of yourself without any expectations, right? There's a sutta where the Buddha gives a list of the motivations for giving. Like one gives so that they have a good reputation. One gives so that they can quid pro quo, like that then they expect something in return. Another one is one gives simply because giving is good, right? These kind of things. So we see there's lots of motivations for it, but really the beginning of the practice is generosity, is practicing letting go, practicing giving of yourself, right? That's very important. And of course, in many of the Buddhist countries, this is what the lay people master. They give all their best food to the monks, and they eat the crappy foods a lot of times, They give so much to the monks. They give to this, they give to that, like Anathapindika, right? Do you know Anathapindika? Anathapindika is the foremost male disciple benefactor of the monastics, right? So of all the other people who were very generous to the Buddhist monastics and the Buddha, the Anathapindika was number one. He was the foremost, right? And you think again, and see, this is where I say, because the tradition, unfortunately, but you see this in the suttas, but the tradition has kind of come as we practice lots of generosity only to the monks, right? Because the tradition, there's a sutta where the Buddha gives a ranking of the importance of giving, right? And of course, at the very top is a Buddha, and then there's arahants, and then there's monks, but at the very bottom, the Buddha even includes animals. So even giving to animals, even though they're not, they're at the bottom of the ranking list, they're still on the ranking list, right? But, the tradition has become like we are very generous to the monastics, right? But you think, well, what about everybody else? Right? But we see in the, boy, I'm really going blank again. I went off on a tangent. I forgot I was going to bring up a sutta where the Buddha, where essentially the Buddha is saying, right, generosity to all beings, to everybody. There's no distinction. Yeah, you might get more merit if you give to a monk, or if you do, give to whatever. But you want to practice like, Anathapindika. That's where I was going. Anathapindika is not his name. Sudatta was his name. Anathapindika is his nickname that was given to him by the city that he lived in. Anathapindika means giver of alms to the poor. So Anathapindika, before even the Buddha and Buddhist monks, he was given to everybody. He was, very generous. So much so that the town that he lived in, the people gave him that nickname. It's Anathapindika, right? And in the stories, you don't find this in the early text, but you find this in, more of the stories of Anathapindika. Anathapindika was so generous that he would let people borrow money from him, but he was too kind. He wasn't like, hey, listen, come on, man. Like sometimes people borrow money and they're really going to hound you, like loan sharks and things. But sometimes, the average person, they borrow the money, they're generous. They give money for you to borrow. And you're like, how many times have you had friends, like you let them borrow, I don't know, a shovel or a CD or whatever? You never see that again, right? And, sometimes it's enough to get you a little agitated about that. But Anathapindika, he loaned all this money out to people, and they took advantage of it. They never paid him back, right? So Anathapindika had this one thing where they talk about, you can see this in The Great Disciples of the Buddha by Helmuth Heckler, The Great Disciples of the Buddha, that has all the stories of all these disciples. And in this, you see, like, so nobody's paying him back. he lost a ship or something. So he went through all of these things where he had basically lost everything. He lost all. He became the richest guy in the town to nothing. And he, but even then, whatever he had, he gave. He still gave to the monks. He was still generous. He was still all this, right? And of course, I think it was something like he found some treasure or something. He ended up getting most of his, if not more, of his money back. So he became rich again. But it's important because you see that even it wasn't just because he had tons of money that he gave, I can be generous, right? He gave all because he wanted to give, right? And even the most poorest person, right? A rich person could give thousands of dollars and it might not be that much. A poor person can give $1 and that might be a lot, right? Or so, and that's not saying one's bad or one's good or whatever, but if you give, that is it. You don't have to be rich to give, right? You don't have to, but so anybody can practice generosity, and not only just money, but time. Being generous of your time for others, right? Time is money, they say. Time is the most valuable thing that we have, our time, because we don't have much of it. No matter how long we live in this world, we don't have a lot of time. So when we give of our time for others, that is a sacrifice, that is giving up. But we want to try to develop and practice ourselves so that we don't have any expectations for that. We're just doing it because it really feels good. We're just doing it because we really like it. We really want to do that, right? So that's the importance of dana, generosity. You could be like Anathapindika is a very good role model for lay people in that regard, right? Just to give, no matter what he gave, whatever he could, whenever he could. Obviously he still had to, have it, take care of his family and do his businesses and stuff like that. He wasn't, he didn't try to make himself bankrupt. Just, through his generosity and through some, karma or random things, whatever that happened, but it didn't stop his generosity. So that's very important. All right. So that's our chanting. Let's do, if you guys have any topics or anything you'd like to discuss, you can type that in the chat. Yes, Greeno Bino, that is true. Now there's some sutta where the Buddha ranks a finger snap loving kindness as better than serving 1,000 arahants. That's in Dhammapada. That's in the it's Sagga Sutta. It's the book of the thousands, if I'm not mistaken. It's also in the suttas as well. So the Buddha says that if a person was to donate 300 barrels of food in the morning, 300 barrels of food in the afternoon, 300 barrels of food in the evening, all of that would not be worth 1/16th of the finger snap of practicing metta, right? So the Buddha is, keeps things in perspective, right? So practicing metta and practicing for awakening, meditation, all that stuff, is that worth more merit? Yes. Right? Why? Because developing your mind allows you to act more skillfully in the world. But that doesn't mean that you get to skip out on practicing generosity and developing your sila and all that. Like a lot of Westerners, they come to Buddhism, they don't want to deal with generosity and sila and all these other things other than meditation. They just want the meditation, right? So that is a very good point. Now, of course, metta is very powerful, very meritorious, very good. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't also give as well. Generosity ninja. That's right. I love being a generosity ninja. It's quite fun. Poor Cindy on the mountain internet, never being able to do it live. I know that feeling, Cindy. It's always wonderful to hear from you, Cindy. And I'm saying hi because, like you say, you always watch them later. So, yeah, I don't know. Have you guys, who hasn't heard of my generosity ninja story? It's not a bad topic. It's every once in a while it's good to talk about generosity. So one of these days I envision maybe being with other monks and we can all be here on the screen together and talk. And I can have somebody read the questions and then I can answer. But that's not going to be for um, a long, long time. All right. So Generosity Ninja. Generosity Ninja is fun. So it came from, well, the real the real story comes from, I have a real love of being able to sneak and be silent. I always found that I always liked that, like a ninja, like a special forces guy sneaking around. And especially when I was young and I'd be sneaking food, that's how I developed my sneak skills. Sometimes I jump scare people. I'm not intending to. I'll just walk up and they look at me. Oh, you scared me. I didn't even hear anything. If I was talking, they could hear me a mile away, right? But otherwise, I'm pretty good. I can be quite sneak. Yeah, sneak over 100. Yeah. And and it was because I like to sneak food. My parents tried to, like, you shouldn't eat so much and all these things, and I'm like, okay, I'd be sneaking, sneak to grab the food from the pantry and things like that, right? So I've always had this, like, this desire, this enjoying of sneaking. And where Generosity Ninja came to me was my last 2 years, or last year and a half working for Child Protective Services. I was a foster and adoptive home recruiter. So it was my job to go to places, to network with people, to recruit, to create events, to go to events, go to events like fairs and things like that. And I had this big idea to bring together 20 or 30 vendors and all these things. So I made this, it was a huge event. I mean, it was going to be like, 100 some odd people, just the people for all the vendors, let alone any, public who come, is going to be open to the public, all these things. And I literally was the only person who planned every aspect of this. It was crazy. I did end up having a woman who needed an intern for her master's, and she helped me a little bit. That helped a lot too. But I did all these planning, but she also worked there. She had her own cases and stuff, so it wasn't like that's all she was doing. So I was busy. I was really, and it was the day of, and I'm running around, and got to make sure the catering and this and da 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 da. And I was in my office, and I was running. Well, not literally running, but I was down on the, so most of my office stuff was on the second floor, and like the main stuff, and I was on the bottom floor, and it was a lot of good exercise running up and down the floors. And I was in the main hall, and in walks in this father. right? And he's got like 4 or 5 kids. And I'm like, okay, this guy's got his hands full. He's like, trying to corral them, like he's like, like a shepherd corralling the sheep. Come on, kids, come on, let's go. And they're active and they want to run around and things. And I kind of, when you're in that state, like, especially like I said, like I have this big event that's going to happen in a couple hours. I got to get there. I got to do this. I got to all of these things, right? And my mind was in that familiar state of, I don't have a second to waste, not a second, right? But when I saw that the father come in with all these kids, it gave me a little, like, a little compassion. I felt a little bit bad for him and I wanted to help him, right? But I was really busy. So my mind was like, I don't care if it's the Pope, coming in with a bunch of cardinals. You're busy. You got to do this. You got to do that, whatever it was. But I was able to break through that mindset. For 1 second, I saw an opportunity to help him out. And what the opportunity was to press the button to the elevator so that by the time he got there with the kids, the elevator was open. So I literally, and this all happened in a split second. This, like what I'm explaining to you, how my mind went through it, everything. I'm walking, I just go right through. I press the elevator button and go right up the stairs. Boom. Right? So he didn't see me do it. I didn't stick around to see the aftermath, but I felt good. And I still remember that to this day, this stupid little 1 second thing of pressing an elevator button to help this guy out, right? And that's when I started to realize, oh, I kind of like the whole, like, doing good for people and they don't know. I like a generosity ninja. And so, like, after that point, I started thinking, like, anytime I had an opportunity to practicing generosity and them not knowing, it was good. Even though there was a part of my mind that was like, oh, they should really know that I did this for them. And, like, you should get some praise for that and all that. There's a part of your mind that's always going to be that way. Still, I enjoyed the fact that I could be like a special forces generosity ninja. I just do my generous deed and get out, get my evac, and then nobody was the wiser. So that's why I encourage people to be a generosity ninja, right? To practice generosity so that only you know that you did what you did. Only you. Nobody else needs to know, right? Nobody else needs to know at all. You know what you did. You know that if it made you feel good, it was a good deed, and that's it. Yeah. Yep. So that's generosity ninja. So you get to practice your sneaking and your generosity at the same time. Skillful sneaking. Yeah. All right. Well, this is why I say, Greeno says, you just start picking tabs up on people when what they need. This is what mindfulness does. When I say that mindfulness, when you're mindful, you practice satipatthana, you're able to see opportunities that other people don't see because you're mindful, because you've developed your situational awareness, as Sujato translates sampajanya. You've developed your sati and you've developed your sampajanya. You can see, oh, this is an opportunity to do something here, right? How do you enroll in this elite club, Grant? You enroll in it by acting. When you do it, then you become it. Just looking through the chat. The chat's kind of quiet tonight. Not much to say. There's also not that many people in, so I guess that's part of it. Usually the chat's flying by. I have to scroll up to see what people said. Well, yeah, I can answer. I can talk about that question, Greeno. How about this? Let's because again, this is supposed to be a community thing. How about let's talk about how our practices are holding up in this era of COVID? How's your practices holding up during quarantine? How have they changed during quarantine? These kind of things. Let's have a discussion. We know that obviously you guys, especially all of you on the Discord, I've seen how much you love all of these live streams by 80 different monastics every night. So many things. There's like 2 other live streams going on right now while I'm doing this live stream, I think. So there you go. Lots and lots of live streams, right? Just don't get used to it, because once everything goes back to somewhat normal, whatever the new normal is, a lot of those are going to go away. So let's discuss that. I'm going to let you guys, go in the chat there, and then I'll, while I'm doing that, we'll answer from Greeno's question here. Talk about empathetic joy. I still struggle with that, BV. So mudita can be hard because in many ways it's the only Brahmavihara that's tied up with your ego directly, at least in a gross way. Empathetic joy. So we have joy for people who are doing well. It's the companion to compassion. So karuna, compassion, is a feeling of sadness, empathetic sadness for somebody who's not doing too well, who's suffering, right? Which is everybody. I mean, everybody has individual sufferings, but literally everybody is also in samsara. So there's individual sufferings, and then there's everybody and their mother's suffering, right? So there's that. So there's empathetic suffering, and there's empathetic joy, right? So karuna is being empathetic to somebody's suffering. Mudita is being empathetic to somebody's joy. So when somebody's doing good, or normally it would be like, somebody at work, that you're a competitor with gets a promotion. You're like, son of a, I work harder than that guy. I'm nicer than that person. I deserve this, blah, 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 right? Envy, jealousy, anger, maybe some righteous anger at feeling like you've experienced an injustice. All of these things arise, right? So of course you're not going to be like, I am so happy that this person got this promotion, right? I am so happy. I have so much empathetic joy for that this person is doing so well. Of course, no, our mind's going to be like, screw that. I want to rage at this person, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to talk behind their back and, make their life more miserable, because that should have been me, right? Now, that's what mudita goes against. That's what some sympathetic joy, right? Empathetic joy, that you are happy that other people are happy. I mean, you got to think about it. Like, life is, dukkha is first noble truth, right? Noble suffering of dukkha, right? So when somebody has some kind of happiness, some kind of good thing happen to them, how does that help us to be agitated by them? Why not just have this very, oh, it's very nice. I'm happy that they're happy. I wish I was more happy. I wish I got that, but I didn't. So how do I work out? What do I do to improve myself or to do whatever so that I don't feel, so that I can also find that happiness and or um, get that promotion or whatever, so that I'm not worried about and angry about somebody else, like who stole my thing, right? This was my promotion, right? This is my thing. You got online first before me, whatever it is. We don't like that. We're really agitated by that, and we want to we want to right that injustice, right? That person got that promotion or whatever it is. We want to right that injustice that's in our mind, whether it's an actual injustice or not, right? But we have that. So we have to think about that, right? That is a part of your mind. You really reflect on that. Is that helping anybody? Is that helping me? Is me getting agitated, right? What is the what am I see? I'm talking about gratitude so much I forgot the GHD. I can't think of the word. Boy, I'm really airheaded today. The gratification, danger, and the escape, right? Why is it? It's gratifying to really hate on this person. We're gonna make fun of them, right? Like even like we're rich people. None of those people deserve anything. If they didn't work for it, they just got it. They were born with it, or they, to get to that point, they just killed and raped and took everybody's money and were really bad and all these kind of things. So we say all these things to, like, whether they're true or not. Maybe sometimes they are true, but we want to think that way anyway, because that somehow helps that feeling like, oh, this is the reason why this is this way, right? And that can be a real pitfall for us, because a lot of times we put our own selves in our own situation, but we don't see that. We don't want to think that. So we look out to somebody else, right? We say, oh, they did this and they did that, and they have this better than me. I don't like that, right? But mudita is perfect to match up with the Buddha's saying of, don't look at what others have done and not done. Look at what you have done and not done, right? So I used to listen to this radio guy um, in my, in my lay life, on this talk radio. And one of his phrases was, "You're doing good. God bless you." And so that phrase, like, it's like, they're like, "Oh, such and such is, he's doing good. God bless him." So that's kind of like my view. Like, if somebody, that comes up in my mind, it's like, hey, he's doing good. Don't worry about it. What are you doing? What are you doing to better yourself, right? What is going on with you? So the Buddha says, don't look at what others have done and not done. Well, look at what you have done and not done, right? So you reflect on that, the gratification, danger, and the escape. You turn it back on yourself, right? Why is this? Why do I want to keep myself suffering in this way? Why can't I just have appreciation for what others do, right? Appreciation. They're very happy, very good. I'm okay. Is there some speech issues going on? Choppiness? There's a little rustling. Hmm. I can try turning down the volume. I haven't changed the volume in like a year. So, but how about this? Is this any better? I have turned it down. It could be evil YouTube again. It could be that I'm also closer. Don't get attached to the level. I won't. As long as it's manageable, I'm okay with it. Yeah, I was just looking at my applications. I don't really have too much else going. Let me scroll. I saw there was lots of activity regarding meditation, Buddhist practice in the time of COVID. All right. Yeah, I think that's because I'm hunched over. I'm speaking into the mic. You watch like podcasts or whatever. They're like, put it up to a fist like this or something like that. Get closer. Okay. I am not an audio guy. So all right. Oh, that is one of the best things about quarantine. Dhamma Talk Fest every night. Yeah. My practice has transitioned from lots of seated practice to lots of off the cushion practice. I've been focusing intently on trying to add the Dhamma to all aspects of my life. That's interesting. It almost seems a little counterintuitive because you'd think because you're stuck in the house or whatever, you'd have more time to sit. But I can also see that. I mean, because in a situation like this, there's a lot of stuff going on in your mind, anxieties and fears and agitations and boredom and all kinds of stuff. And that's a lot of opportunities for practice, a lot of opportunities for investigation and insight. I was finding the cushion as an escape. That's actually very good. Sometimes, because a lot of times when I sit, I end up nodding off. Sometimes my mind will actually want me to go sit and nod off so the meditation goes quicker. My mind will be like, oh, just go, you're going to fall asleep. And then, half hour later, it'll be done and we'll be done with this. So I was like, oh, no, we're not sitting. I see you, Mara. We're not sitting. You just lost. You just gave up your card. You gave up your best hand, and I saw it. So it's not going to happen. So that's very good that you actually can see that. I was finding the cushion as an escape. Very good. Now I'm finding a balance of both. All right. All right, Greeno. Keeping up with the 8 precepts. Very good. John, that's a tough one. I'm finding my wife finds me skipping dinner 4 times a lunar month vexing. Well, obviously. She's like, hey, wait a second. What's going on? I don't know especially if you guys eat dinner as a family or whatever together, I can see that, being kind of confusing or kind of like, we're missing out or whatever. I can, especially somebody who's not a practitioner and, she might not, it might take her for a while to understand, or she might not understand. It's just one of those things. She also finds any talk of death really hard. That's everybody. That's everybody. Unless you've actually unless you're a practitioner, if you practice lots of mindfulness of death, or you've actually gone through a lot of death in your life, death is going to be hard. It's hard for everybody. But after you've, held the hand of somebody dying a couple of times, it's not as hard as the average person, right? You start to understand it. You start to see it. You start to see something crashed on my PC. I don't know what the heck it is. All right. So yeah, you can't really, to the average person who lives their life in the external, they try to avoid death. They don't want to see it. They don't, even when their loved one dies, they'd rather not have to see it, but they have to see it. They're forced to see it. They're forced to experience it. And if you've gone most of your life with no other experiences or avoiding it, it's going to be rough. So of course, nobody wants to, especially like, imagine you're a parent and you say, start reflecting on the fact that your child could die at any time. You think they're going to want to think about that? They're already probably anxiety filled about it all the time anyway. Right? So it's not easy, and even for Buddhist practitioners, even somebody who's on the path, it's not easy. And this is why when I do teach it, I say in the beginning, if it's gross, if it feels morbid, if it feels horrible, that's because you haven't reflected on it, right? But nobody should be forced to reflect on it if they don't want to. It's not, if they're not ready for it, if they don't want to do it, it's not going to be beneficial. It's going to be maybe even more harmful. So that's rough, And you don't, even if it's somebody like a spouse or a parent, you don't have control over them wanting or needing to investigate something like that. You don't. And even with a spouse or a parent, if you bug them enough, they're going to get annoyed about it. They're not going to be like, well, this is my spouse or my parents, so I should probably listen to them. Sometimes maybe, but most of the time they're going to reject against it because that's our natural inclination to not think about it, to avoid it. Humans are pretty screwed. Think about your dog or your cat. They don't have to worry about, they're like, I can die at any second, right? Any being in the universe that has reached this level where you can contemplate your own death, you have, what do they call it, existential problems, right? Thinking about your own death. That's brutal. Of course, it's no wonder nobody wants to think about that. Who wants to think about that? Reflecting on their own death. But if you trust in the Buddha and you do the practice and you start to see the benefit of it, right? So don't push it. That's just the way it is. If you're looking at, corpses, try not to do it where anybody else in your family can see. Whatever you're doing, just be understanding that other people are not going to want to deal with it. If they're ready, they'll ask you about it. My practice time has been increasing. Same with my connections to others in the community. Still getting some odd looks from the roomie around Aposita, but she's getting used to it. Very good. Trying to keep working with whatever comes up the mind. Not getting swayed by it. Keeping even. Having an equanimous mind. That's the tough one. But that is developed through mindfulness of breathing. Oh, Shay, I'm just reading your thing. Uh, Kalesa. You know what's funny? I saw that pop up when it first did, and I thought you typed in Khaleesi, like the mother of dragons from Game of Thrones. I'm like, why did somebody type that? What did I say that? But now I see it's Kalesa. I don't know if it's spelled that way, actually. Maybe that's what messed me up. But maybe it is. But yeah, it's funny how the mind works. All right. Yeah, well, something like this. This is wonderful. Grant Rupa says, I think pre COVID, everybody was busy with schedules. We had less streams, but we were just busy in Samsara. Yeah, and that's what's going to happen once this is over. You're going to get busy in Samsara again. You got to go to work, and kids are going to get back to their games. We got to take them to this baseball game and this soccer game, and life is going to get busy again. Right? And that's the way it is. So you take this opportunity to do the best with it that you can. All right, I'm all up to the audio distorted thing here. Adriana, Lowell, Bonte, our minds are the same. Yes, all of our minds are the same. We all have our own little quirks, little idiosyncrasies, little temperaments and tendencies. But when you come down to it, all our minds are the same. We all have greed, hatred, and delusion, and we all have underlying tendencies, anusayas, underlying habitual tendencies. It's like we all have Windows 10, but each one of our Windows 10 is a little different, a little customized, right? It's the same way. We're all running on the same operating system, but each one of our Windows 10s, we have a different background. We have our settings set up a little differently. Some people like all the flashiness. Other people want to have less flashiness so that there's, more processing power, all kinds of different things. But we all have Windows 10. Shay, that's a good one. Since quarantine, I noticed that I was really used to getting things whenever I want. All kinds of food, any kind of shopping I could do anytime. Yeah. It's kind of like when people come to Bhavana, they go to the woods and they're like, I really have a hankering for organic soy milk ice cream. Let's go find. And then they go all around and they're like, there's not an organic soy milk ice cream for 70 miles. Right? So you realize, okay, well, you're not going to get all of your little things that you like, right? So that's nature. You go out and you get used to, it's just like at Bhavana that we don't have cold everything, like cold water and ice and all these kind of things. So you just get used to drinking things warm, right? And so when you go to a place and they're like, "Do you want ice?" I'm like, "Ice is okay. I don't need it. I mean, one way or the other." You know. Tomorrow is a posita. I totally forgot about that. So we're gonna have to do an aposita session. 2 sessions in a row, I guess. Adriana, a lot of my practice is observing pain, whether physical or emotion. I've noticed a subtle layer of aversion under my observation. All right, good. CC. My grandparents keep doing this with me. My grand just casually slips in when we die into the conversations, but she also knows I'm going to be chill about it. Yeah, it's good. I don't know if most of you heard the joke that I always tell about one of the reasons why I always say, well, I don't know if I'm going to be a monk forever. Who knows? Because growing up, maybe not when I was a baby, because when you're really young, it scares kids. But I remember, at least from the time I was an early teenager, my dad would be like, well, I'm only going to be around another 5 years or so. That was like 25 years ago. He's still around and he's still doing it. So, it's good that your grandparents are like, well, when we die, it's coming soon. Could be another 15 years or whatever, but it's coming. Truth is the way. Also, private browsing. We're talking about, I guess, the Windows 10 thing. You don't need people checking your history and wondering if you're a psychopath. Every single one of us has thoughts that we would never want anybody else to think, because we think that people would think we're crazy. Like, actually, I was just watching a psychologist and he was giving a talk and he's like, so be truthful. Every single one of you has had the thought at one time in your life of killing somebody. All right. And he was dead serious. He wasn't joking. He's like, and guess what? I've had a thought arise, because the mind will be like, there's this problem. There's an easy solution. Take them out. Right? We've all had that in our minds, right? But we think, oh my God, my mind wants me to kill somebody or whatever, right? So our mind has all kinds of thoughts that we never, ever want to admit to having, because it'll make us look bad, right? We never want to admit that, but our minds all do. Every one of us, right? And so that's why it makes it much easier once you've practiced enough and you start to understand not self and you start to see it. Well, if a thought comes up, like, the example I always use of during the metta retreat, the image of me getting up and punching Bhante Sila in the face, right? I didn't do it. I didn't want to do it. It's just an impulse image that came up. That's just the way it is, right? I think this is where, like in psychology, you got like Jung and like integrating your shadow and all that kind of stuff. It's like we want to deny that that's in us, right? I love the whole image of understanding that you could be the concentration camp guard. Like, we always want to think that we're the hero, we're the good guys, but no, we could easily be the bad guys as well. But when those thoughts arise, we push them away. We don't want to even know that they existed. But you know what that does? It gives them power. It really does. Because it makes you even more fearful and more, these kind of things. It gives it more power over you. Cunning Corbett, I love it. See, I didn't even get to this point, but you just proved my point. Just expose them to the absolutely crazy search history that you have. I like it. Very good. Very good. Who has been looking at my dead bodies? But that is interesting, though. It really is. I've examined my mind in that regard. There is a part of my mind that's very quick, cold, calculating, and just straightforward. It will present to you its quickest, dirtiest idea of how to deal with something. Right? Whatever that is. Steal this. Kill that person. Whatever. it will just do it. And that's why there's a committee of the mind, because there's this other part of your mind that's like, hey, that's ridiculous. We're not going to do that. Right? So there's a part of your mind that is that very cold, calculating, ethics aside, this is probably what you should do. It's dangerous, but that's the way it is. That's why people do things. Excuse lateness. Of course, Reed, coming in when it's almost over. All right. So for those of you who are just coming in, we've doubled the amount of people. So those of you who are coming in, basically what we're doing is we're going over our how our practice has changed, better, worse, whatever, how our practice is like during COVID, like, during this quarantine, how has our practice been like? So that's what we've been sharing and discussing. Shay, sometimes I am struggling a lot with imagining how rare human rebirth is. Even though I read in the turtle simile, I have trouble wrapping my head around it, and I can't help the feeling. It's because you don't see your past lives yet. You haven't developed that ability. You don't have the insight to see it, of course, because it's just intellectual at that point. Do you think I know? You think I can imagine what an aeon is? What it is? How rare a human rebirth is? No, I am in this life now, and so this is what I've noticed, and this is all of us. I am in this life. I have entered this flesh mech, this body machine. I am this body. I am this. My sex is male. And this body was, it comes from people who, left Africa and went up into the ice in Europe, and my skin is white, and all of these things, right? And so this is my perception as a being. This is who I am, right? My family is Italian, so that's another. So all of these perceptions, this is what I know. I can't imagine myself being something else. This is what I know, right? But this is why the Buddha says that, if you develop your mind, you're able to see these other things, and then you can understand, whoa, okay, yeah. You think the Buddha just decided that human life is rare? No, he was able to see how people are born according to their karma. He sees that, a lot of people's karma is not that great. So he says, that the most people who are human now are not going to be human next life, right? Because of their deeds, right? So he sees all this and he's like, the human rebirth is pretty rare. It's a pretty chill thing. It could be a lot worse. So now's the time to practice, right? So you don't know about other lives, right? You only know this one, and in this life you're a human. In this human life you can practice. So practice. You don't have to worrying about your next life and all these things. You practice now, and that sets the groundwork for all of that in the future. You don't have any say in that once you die. You only have a say in it right now. Life is so painful. Finish already. Arise. Oh, I'm sorry. I see. Shay continued on with this. Yeah, life sucks. It has great things and it has bad things, but if really there was only one life, actually it makes things a lot easier. Like, I don't understand why people get worried about, like, if there's nothing after death and everything's in this noggin right here, and then lights go out and you're done. What's to worry about that? That's easy. It's way worse to worry about, oh crap, I can go to a hell forever, right? Or, oh man, I got to get reborn over and over again forever unless I get off this train. That's way worse to me. It's much easier if it was just done. So if it is, it is. Otherwise, So now you practice whatever this life, whatever, whatever will happen in the future. Who knows? We don't know. But now you practice. Life is painful. Finish. Imagine that life is so horrible for you that you commit suicide to get away from it. But then you end up getting reborn again. That's a Twilight Zone right there. That or what it is, the new one that's called thing. People say Black Mirror, right? Twilight Zone, whatever it is, whatever the new Black Mirror, whatever. That's an episode of that you, no matter how you try to escape, you can't. That's a horrible situation, right? So if you can't escape, the only thing you can do is move forward. The only thing you can do is practice. You like the Mac OS? Ugh, Mac. Mac OS is like animals. Like humans have Windows 10 and dogs have Mac. How about that? All right. Can you tell I have a bias? All right. Oh, now we're getting into Mac, Linux, and Windows issues here on the not Dhamma. All right. You can't even go to the local video rental store. I thought video rental stores went the way of anicca. Okay. Linux. Oh boy. The chat has derailed. All right. Cunning. Would you say that the impulse to think killing thoughts is because hatred is one of the strongest kilesas? There are people that kill without hatred. They do it because if it's a job, right? They do it. Hatred doesn't necessarily. Not every time somebody kills somebody, it's because of they're very emotional. But obviously, anger is one of the strongest defilements for sure. The truth is the way. My practice during COVID has been amazing. I'm using the extra time to study Dhamma. Very good. Challenging myself to do different Dhamma practices each day. All right, good. Last Apostada was my first one. All right, a newbie. It was hard. The truth is the way it says, though, because of this, with quarantine, I didn't know what to do. I spent 4 hours sitting on something. But by the last session, I was antsy and stressed. Welcome to meditation. No. All right. Something about me being Italian and saying, no, really? As he waves his hands around. Yeah. But you know what? It's not culturally universal, but there's a lot of cultures. There's a lot of cultures in many different parts of the world that like their hand waving. All right. Key says, my practice has been better during lockdown as I join new sanghas and have had more time to be mindful and find it easier to practice the precepts and meditate and go to Dhamma talks. All right, very good. Sadhu. Oh, this debate is getting spicy. I don't know what debate that was, Adriana. Oh, you have to let go of your attachment to Microsoft Windows, Bante. Not until there's something better. No. I actually did have a monk try to get me into doing Linux, but I'm like, man, I'm old and I'm already used to my ideas. I'm already used to Windows. All of my programs, all my video editing programs from when I was a photographer, all of that stuff I have is all Windows. I'm not, I don't feel like learning a whole other language system at this point. I'm an old man already. All right. I get teased all the time because of my Hispanic hand waving. Yeah, that's because you guys are very close to Italians in many ways. Very energetic people. Adriana Bonte, I would have to echo what was said earlier. Windows 10 is best. Oh, no, I mean, I have been trying to place a greater emphasis on my practice off the cushion. I feel like I was kind of neglecting the other aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path. All right, very good. Remember, the Noble Eightfold Path is a package deal. It's not just one thing, it's a bunch of things. It's a whole package. Just just to effectively use Linux, you'd have to cut out your meditation practice in half. Yep. You know the old phrase, if it don't work, if it works, if it still works, don't fix it. John made a sutta study plan and made the mistake of reading long discourses first. Exhausting. Yeah, but the good part about it is, John, is that there's only 30 some odd of them. 32, 36, one of them. Once you get past that, then but I'll tell you what's worse. What's rougher. Because in my endeavor to read every single page of the Nikayas, which I have done, and I'm already on the second bout of it. This time I'm reading it with the Pali on Sutta Central. Getting to the Samyutta Nikaya and the Anguttara Nikaya is harder, right? Because it's small suttas, but it's the same topic for 100 pages. So eventually, like, okay, I'm sick of hearing about dependent origination. When is the next one coming? Oh, come on. What is it? And then there's way more pages. The Samyutta Nikaya is way bigger than the Digha Nikaya. So, in many ways, it's a bit easier, even if the sutta is longer. You know, there's a bit more meat there sometimes. A little bit more, one sutta is not the exact same topic as the next one. So now we've turned into the culture corner here, talking about all kinds of cultural things and who waves their hand and who has the best food. And all right, skip, skip, skip. Yeah, that is true, Greeno. With Anguta Nikaya, because the topics are so varied, it does make it a bit easier. All right. Well, I don't see much left in the chat. We'll go as long as I never try to force things to be longer than they need to be. So as things die down, if we're done, we're done. If we continue to go longer, then we continue to go longer. All right, Shay. Also, imagine we had no time to read the suttas at all. If we had to work 15 hours every day or something. Well, these days, this is why it's really good these days. Because back in the old days, you had to go work on the farm 15 hours and you were tired and you went to bed. These days, we work many jobs where we have what's called found time, right? Maybe we got to commute to work or whatever. And now one of the big things in the world now because of this found time is people are listening to podcasts, right? So a practitioner, they're sitting on the bus traveling, they're driving in their car to work, whatever. That's time to listen to Dhamma right there. So we have many benefits these days that our ancestors did not. So even if you're working 15 hours a day, I bet you have some found time in there somewhere. Maybe even for work while you work. I remember reading a study. The average worker only spends about a quarter of their day working. Like a lot of times they're like on Facebook or whatever. Like so there's plenty of opportunities to even I remember at work, my job was pretty kind of like it was casework, so it was free flowing. I made in many ways I made my own schedule. But I can remember times sometimes like I wanted to take a break, get on my phone. My work computer was blocked, so I couldn't access most outside sites. So I wasn't going on Facebook on my outside, but I had my cell phone. So I'd be like, oh, what's going on? Did it, and and oftentimes I'd have my cell phone with my headset in and I'd listen to either music or Dhamma talks or whatever. So while I was working. So there you go. Why don't we do a guided meditation? Actually, you know what? Everybody here, we don't need to do a guided meditation. Let's just meditate together. How about that? We'll just sit and be quiet for about 20 minutes. All right, let's practice. Ding, ding, ding. I don't have a bell with me. Slowly start to come out of the meditation. Or I just shocked you out of the meditation. Oh boy. Well, I got to remember that next time. I won't do that again. Sorry. I almost gave people heart attacks. All right. Well, we only have a little while left. I think maybe we can call it, unless anybody has anything pressing. Any comments, questions, clarifications? How was their meditation? All right. Well, I'm glad I ran the gamut of giving people heart attacks and giving them a good laugh when I did my dings. All right. So let's do Bante V. Let's do the sharing of merit, huh? May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. There we go. 3 sadhus. You can't please all the people all the time. Yes. Okay, friends. Until next time, those of you on the Discord or those of you who go on the Second Life Saturday, I'll see you on Saturday evening. I'll see you guys on the Discord for Suttas Monday, but also tomorrow is Aposita. So those of you on the Discord, let's do 6 o'clock. So between 6 and 7 on the Discord tomorrow, we'll do our normal Aposita. We'll go over wherever we left off on the Noble Eightfold Path. So 6 o'clock tomorrow on the Discord. All right. And those of you who are here not on the Discord, you're welcome to join us. If not, you can send an email, if you'd like to, an email to magaseka@gmail.com. Post it in the chat. As Ajahn Brahm said, one monk said sourdough 3 times and donated it for alms. I like it. That's my favorite bread. I'm going to use that one day. Sourdough, sourdough, sourdough. All right, friends. Until next time, Sukiotu, may you be happy, practice well, and be well.